Hi, welcome to Café with Cavanha. Today we have with us Geoffrey Cann. He's in Calgary and we are in Rio now. Geoffrey has a very important work on digital for the oil and gas sector. I suggest you all visit the website geoffreycann.com. We invited him to talk about what a local oil company must do to be digital. Good afternoon, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon. It's delightful to be here.
Yeah, for me it's a pleasure. Geoffrey, which factors or variables you consider to make an oil and gas company to be considered digital, or no one company is digital yet?
Well, the oil and gas industry actually is not yet very, very digital. And so it's hard to identify any companies so far who would match the digital capabilities you see in some companies like Amazon or Google or other large digital businesses. So first observation I would make is the industry itself is not very digital. There are many companies, though, that are progressing their digital agendas, typically very large companies like Shell and BP. They have already established digital teams inside their companies to start exploring how digital will affect their companies and their industry. For small companies, though, generally it's still very early days for adoption of digital. But for me, if someone said, how do you tell if a company is digital or not? These are the things I would look for. I would ask first is, does the board of the company, especially if it's a publicly traded company, does the board of the company discuss digital issues at the board level? Because if the board is not talking about digital, they will not give management guidance to be exploring digital. So it starts at the board, and not just cybersecurity issues. There's much news about hackers stealing company records and so forth. So boards are already talking about cyber issues, but not so much other digital issues. So that's the first measure I look for, is the board talking about it. Next, as I look for an executive in the oil company whose job is to drive digital. Digital is not something that just is side of the desk or a part-time job. It's got to be an important role, and so there must be an executive sponsor. I look for oil companies who have a specific statement that data is very important to them. And because, Google makes a lot of money off of data. It uses the data to drive its advertising. So if oil companies don't treat their data very seriously, they don't spend money on it, they don't have data scientists and specific jobs about data, they're not very digital. I look for companies that have training programs for digital for their own employees, because it's such a new area. Unless you're training your people in digital, it's not going to be able to get much lift. So those are the things that I look for to identify companies that are embracing digital.
Geoffrey, when you mention that the company is digital or not, you include, let's say, only not data, but sensors, machine learning, artificial intelligence. What exactly cover digital, to be digital or not?
Yeah, so digital, the definition for digital that I like to use is the one from the International Energy Agency. The International Energy Agency has a definition which says something that is digital must include data, computational support, and networking support. And so, the mobile phone is a good example of this. It has data, which in my case, my address book. It has a computer in it because it can calculate mathematics, and it can network to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So this is a definition of a digital thing. Okay. So it starts with that. And then you're quite right. The digital technologies that are common to many industries, Internet of Things, cloud computing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, robots and autonomous technologies, blockchain technologies, use of gamification, cloud computing, even ERP systems are becoming very, very digital. And so if you're wondering, oh, well, what's included in digital, it starts with having a thoughtful business response to these supercomputers that are in everyone's pocket, and taking advantage of all of these other digital innovations that are there.
It seems that there is more linked to automation, process automation, than, because geophysicists and geologists are very intense in terms of data. They acquire data, they process a huge quantity of data, so it's different. It's more related to automation of the process of the system, including corporate systems.
Yep, very much so. I mean, oil and gas practically invented digital because, as you point out, geologists through seismic data processing and subsurface analysis has always been very, very data intense. But in the case of oil and gas, much of the investment has gone into that direction. And where digital can go for in other directions, oil and gas has been less quick to invest in those areas, and things like artificial intelligence, robots, and so forth.
That's a very good point. So how distant are oil and gas segment compared to the other areas of productive systems like avionics and health? Are the difference is too much, or is not much?
Yeah, I'm not personally as familiar with all of those other industries. I'm much more of an oil and gas specialist. But I do a fair amount of research because oil companies ask me this question a lot. How far behind are we? Are we at risk being caught out? And a couple of observations I make. One is that the digital building blocks, back to this kind of device, this is not specific to an industry. So any industry can use these. And so all industries are confronting the same kinds of adoption challenges related to digital. The industries that are further ahead are those that have a direct customer relationship. So you think about retailing, banking, online services, where there is a direct personal customer. And those industries are further ahead. Industries that are behind are those that have no direct customer. Their customer might be another business. Mining. And so business, what's that?
Mining, for instance.
Oh, I would characterize heavy industries in general, specifically where there's the big asset, like a power plant or a dam, or where the asset is built and then it never changes over its life. It just runs. And those industries are not very digital at all. Industries with heavy assets are not digital. Public sector, many governments are not very digital. It's because they have to serve a customer base. They're taxpayers. Some of them are maybe have no computers at home, not currently able to afford smartphones. So they still have to offer a traditional service. So public sector, even though it has lots of individual customers, might not be very digital. But the industries that are ahead, as I say, are finance, transportation, logistics, manufacturing, banking, retailing. The ones that are behind are construction, oil and gas, power, mining, utilities, water, these sort of heavy industries. Perfect.
Geoffrey, comparing big majors, and let's see, local and small companies that we have some in Brazil, the challenges are different, and are they too different in terms of digital or not digital?
So the challenge for small companies is just accessing talent, the expertise, because the expertise in digital is quite scarce. And as a result, because it's scarce, it's high cost. And so some digital people with digital skills can command really strong salaries. And therefore, it's big companies that can afford to hire individuals with a digital background. So that's one of the main differences. Here in North America, for instance, small companies partner with startup companies and universities, because the startup companies are sometimes unable to work for really large companies because they're simply too small. But for small to small works, and then the universities often have programs where students go and work with industry, and so tapping into university systems is a good way to get access to digital skills.
Yeah, interesting. And they are the same size, so small companies doing service for small companies as oil companies.
Small companies, yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly. And there's lots and lots of startups in digital. So it's not like small companies can't invest in digital, but they have to look at a different part of the market, smaller company market.
Perfect. Geoffrey, I heard that you are launching a book called Bits, Bytes, and Barrels, the digital transformation
Yes.
of oil and gas. In a couple of days, I suppose. It's not just, is just ready or not yet?
Well, it is slowly rolling out across the online book marketplace. Since it's a book about digital, I decided to sell the book only online. So if you want to buy the book, you go to online bookstores. So Amazon but it's going to about 100 booksellers around the world. So it should be available in most countries. It is the launch is January 30th, so just next week. The book is in 5 chapters. The first chapter explains what digital is. The second chapter goes into all the digital technologies and what they are, so artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so forth. Chapter 3 looks at each segment of oil and gas: upstream, midstream, downstream, construction, retailing, wholesaling, and shows which digital technologies are going to impact those segments. And chapter 4 is for managers of oil and gas who are being told your job is to implement digital. And so where do you start? What is your work plan look like? What people do you need? How do you make progress? And then chapter 5 is for the board and very senior executives to help them shape company direction and anticipate where digital will go so that their companies will be able to prosper in a more digital world. And so, as I say, the book is already available. If someone wanted to purchase, many copies, of bulk purchases, the easiest thing to do is to contact me, because I can make those arrangements for people who wish to buy, say, 20, 30, or 40 copies.
We hope you have success with this book.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It certainly is very popular already. I mean, I haven't not launched. The official launch is next week, but the book has already had several hundred sales.
Excellent. Good. I appreciate having Geoffrey Cann with us today. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Geoffrey.
Thank you very much for extending the invitation to me. It's always good to speak with people around the world.
Excellent. And probably we can make another conversation with more people, make a debate or something like this for digital oil and gas.
For sure. Yes, I'm open to any kind of conversation about digital.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.